G'day and welcome to another assembly review. Today's subject, Kit 9113 by Dragon for the Cyberhobby Value release, is a re-release of Kit 9017 combined with 6174. Like most of the armor kits with soldiers included to come, I will not be assembling the soldiers or discussing them at this time. No longer produced, you can generally still find this kit floating around, and given the age and details of the model, I wouldn't be paying more than $50 Australian. Especially when you can find 6776 floating around, which is a much more modern version featuring Scherzen and better details. But if you're a collector, ultimately it's worth whatever you feel it is, I guess. Now in regards to this kit, there are a few key things to note, so let's start with the negatives. The tooling as mentioned is older, quite old at this point in fact, so the flash presence is fairly high, with a lot of extra attention to detail being required, but this comes with another hidden drawback. The poly used in a lot of these orange box kits seems to vary between light and dark, hinting at some of these kits being new old stock at the time and are simply reboxed and sent out with troops, which is fine until it isn't. This older, lighter formula poly is nearly always weaker when being worked with, so I opt to personally do a lot of the tidy up after sections are glued together and secured on the model after being left to dry. A great example is the handles on the turret roof, snapping while being removed from the sprue, even with extra detail being taken to trim them free. Moving on to the instructions, they're fairly typical Dragon with a couple of numbering issues and vague, unclear moments, but this doesn't overly hinder the build process, especially if you don't mind doing a little bit of extra research when you get stuck. And now with the negatives out of the way, let's kick off some positives. First up is how nicely the overall majority of this kit goes together. Particularly the deck to the hull, which slides in crisply and doesn't really require too much filling and sanding in the post build. Despite many of the deck tools requiring a manual setout, it's fairly easy to follow where they're meant to be, given a nice clear bird's eye of them in the manual. The decals included in this kit are crisp and brilliant, giving you 3 options to go for with the paint scheme, which are featured in colour on the rear of the box, and a great point to note is the magic track inclusion with this release, which is always welcome when comparing to the original tracks of the 9017 kit. It's worth noting, buying this kit secondhand, or any kit for that matter, make sure you double check the contents upon arrival or before purchasing if you're in person, as mine was missing the tracks, so I'll be using an aftermarket Ryefield set, but it does suck. Overall it's a decent model, and I'll be looking at making mine more of a muddy look when I get around to it. Out of 10 I'd give it about a 4 for detail when compared to other modern Panzer IIIs, such as Takom or Dragon's newer version of this. A 7 for enjoyment and about an 8 for value if you get it for a good price. As previously mentioned, due to the weakness of many of the pieces, I won't be doing a solid tidy up just yet, leaving it for just before the paint process, and like all my other tanks, I'd rather leave the wheels off due to personal preference until they're done. And that's where she'll stay for now. I do apologise for the length between videos here. I've been working on a much bigger project Zoid behind the scenes, so this was a nice break away for the moment. I'm not fully sure when the next one will be out, as I will be attending PX, a local second-hand model sale next weekend. But all going well, I should be starting another build during the week, so keep an eye out for whatever's next. I hope you enjoyed this one. Maybe see you next time. Cheers!